Hey guys, welcome to your channel. I am going to give you direction regarding one important article from today's Hindu newspaper's opinion page. It is Surveillance Wars in Space. This article is at the present context of use of international space station. Recently, at various contexts, we have found that every country is going to occupy the space according to her own way. Whether it is anti-satellite test or whether it is in another context, it is every country is one way or another way trying to occupy the space. So there is a doubt that will there be in future will there be any such scenario where the militarization of space will be done? In such a scenario, this article has brought the context of three important matters: space debris. I have made a particular video regarding space debris. If you have not watched the video, I have put the link of the video in the description box. You watch the video, you will find all the details there regarding space debris. Another important matter is rendezvous and proximity operation and policy need to regulate international space station. These three context matters have been brought by the context of this article. So what is rendezvous and proximity operations? Rendezvous and proximity operations, what happened? And one important matter is that one important concerns expressed by the article is that recently one country is deploying their satellite to spy another country's satellite, and in this context actually this particular term rendezvous and proximity operations have come into being. What is rendezvous and proximity operations? For example, this is a Indian intelligence satellite, and China wants to hack the inputs of this satellite. Then what China has to do? China has to deploy a particular spacecraft in the same orbit so that it can recuperate the data from Indian intelligence satellite. So means in the same orbit China has to deploy another spacecraft. Means what is rendezvous and proximity operations? Means when two spacecraft positions at the same orbit approaching closely to each other, it is called rendezvous and proximity operations. So what are the purposes of this method actually? Transfer astronaut. Astronaut has to be transferred from one spacecraft to another spacecraft through this method. Provide food supply. Provide orbital service. For example, if one spacecraft is undergoing some problem, then another spacecraft can deploy engineers through this method. Then debris removal. If this spacecraft is making some kind of debris, right? Then deploying another spacecraft in the same orbit can remove those debris. Right. So if these purposes are good, then what are the concerns? Concerns are there no policy regulation. There is a lack of strict policy regulation that how to operate this method. Means there is no law. For example, this is Indian satellite, right? There is no law at what distance, to what extent another country cannot deploy another satellite. Right. These kind of regulations are actually lacking at the present context. Liability. If this is Indian satellite and China is deploying another satellite in the same orbit, if any particular kind of clash occurs, if there is a concerns of life of the astronaut, if there is a concerns of state debris, then who will take the responsibility? So liability problem, spy and intelligence problem, hacking problem. These are some actually grievous problems which have been posed by this rendezvous and proximity operation method. So this article actually brings the matter of a particular law which is urgently required to govern international space station. So in this context, if you find any answer in mains exam, if you face any question regarding upcoming any kind of interview or state PCS exam, then you can refer to some international space treaty. For example, United Nations Outer Space Treaty. What are its laws? That everyone can explore space as common ground. Everyone has to use space peacefully. None can build military base in space. No single country can possess land in space. Particular space will be held responsible. Particular space, not particular state. Particular state will be held responsible in case of damage. and no contamination. These are some laws governed by the United Nations Outer Space Treaty, which has regulated the space laws till now. Besides this, there is a Moon Agreement. According to this agreement, no one can use Moon as personal property, military base, or nuclear purposes. The registration convention, every details of spacecraft have to be registered before it has been deployed in space. So these are some important context and references I have given to you. Try to find out your own way, prepare your own notes, but keep it in mind, this is a very important, interesting, and so the most important thing is that very much relevant topic for your exam.